The Dershow.
I was at the 750th anniversary of Magna Carta. I was Harvard Law School's official representative, went to Westminster, sat 4 or 5 rows behind the Queen, saw the actual copy of the Magna Carta that was held up and exhibited. It wasn't passed around. I didn't touch it. But there I was in Westminster Abbey celebrating the 750th anniversary of that great Declaration of Freedom, which really is the origin of the writ of habeas corpus and all of those things, some of which the Trump administration is now trying to suspend. It won't be able to. Don't worry about it. The writ of habeas corpus can't be suspended except by Congress and except during wartime. So I think the writ of habeas corpus is fairly safe. But is Harvard safe? And I don't know the answer to that question. Harvard will survive because it has a $53 billion endowment. It has very good money managers who make around 10% tax-free for the most part. So if you're making 10% of $54 billion endowment, you're making over $5 billion a year. They're taxed at a very low rate. They agree to pay certain taxes, but probably 10% or something. So, they can put in the bank $5 billion a year, which is more than any university needs to support it for any given year. So I'm not shedding too many tears about Harvard. I am shedding tears about the research that has stopped as the result of cutting off the funds from medical research, and that ought to stop. They shouldn't be cutting off of funding. There are plans that say, well, maybe all university funding should be cut, and anybody who wants a research grant should have to go to the National Association of this or that, and national academies who do pure scientific evaluations, not political evaluations, and get their research grants from that. That would be very cumbersome and difficult and expensive. But I would hope that universities should be subjected to targeted funding. There are a lot of aspects of Harvard that shouldn't be funded. The Harvard Divinity School has become a cesspool of bigotry and anti-Semitism. The Divinity School, it's supposed to teach Christian values. Basically, to be on the faculty of the Harvard Divinity School, you have to be a non-Christian, certainly in your attitudes. The anti-Semitism that has been spewing forward from the Divinity School, and this doesn't come from me, that comes from this Harvard. Harvard did its own study of its own schools, and it came to the conclusion, Harvard came to the conclusion, that the Divinity School is a cesspool. It also came to the conclusion that the School of Public Health is a cesspool of anti-Semitism. Those are the two schools that are the worst. And there are programs at the schools, the human rights programs at the law school is a cesspool of bigotry and anti-Semitism. I used to call myself a human rights, civil liberties activist. Those were my bywords. I never use those words anymore. Today, human rights, civil liberties have all become weaponized words to be used against America, Christianity, Judaism, Israel, Zionism. If you hear the word human rights, it's going to be anti-Israel. If you hear the word civil rights, it's going to claim apartheid, civil liberties. Those words have been hijacked horribly. And I feel myself just personally deprived because I've devoted my life to human rights, civil liberties. And I don't use those words anymore. When I see an envelope coming in now that is an attempt to get me to contribute, and it says human rights, I tear it up. It says civil liberties, I throw it in the garbage pail. I don't support the American Civil Liberties Union. I don't support organizations that claim to be civil rights organizations. I marched for civil rights in the 1950s and the 1960s. I got into trouble when I was president of the student government at Brooklyn College. I was rebuked. The president of the school wouldn't write me a recommendation for law school because I participated in civil rights demonstrations. I was there when Martin Luther King made his speech, his I Have a Dream speech. So, for me, civil rights was always the essence of my life. Civil liberties, no more. I despise organizations that claim to be in favor of and human rights. The Human Rights Project, which is now, a gay project, has become an anti-Israel project. Transgender rights. You can't support transgender rights unless you support Palestinian claims that there should be no Israel state. So what's gone on in the world today, this inversion of Hamas is suddenly the great civil rights organization, and Israel is an apartheid, genocidal, etc. And the United States is too. And so, don't count me as a supporter of civil rights, civil liberties, human rights. I support those concepts, but I don't support organizations. I support gay rights. I do not support gay rights organizations. I support Black Lives Matter. I do not support Black Lives Matter as an organization. I support transgender rights. I do not support transgender organizations for the most part because they have become part of intersectionality, and you can't support them unless you become an anti-Semite, an anti-Israel, anti-American, anti-Christian. That's the world we're moving into, and it's just awful. And it inverts everything. And today, when somebody says, I support civil liberties, civil rights, human rights, I look at them very, very suspiciously. What kind of a fascist are you if you support that? It must mean, that you hate this and hate that. So we don't even have a common vocabulary anymore. That's how divided we've become. All right. So I'm hoping that the administration continues to put pressure on Harvard and other schools to end its toleration of bigotry. And I will support the administration as long as it doesn't cut back on research grants, pure scientific and medical research. So again, I feel very, politically homeless. I'm not on Harvard's side. I'm not on the administration side because the administration is going too far. Harvard isn't doing enough. I try my best to think for myself.